Welcome to the Evolution Partners podcast, where I talk with the world's leading thinkers, planners, and doers who are helping to build great companies in their own way. We learn how the work they're doing is creating an impact and get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. This episode is brought to you by Evolution Partners, where we help leaders to confidently build enduring great companies using our proven, structured, strategic planning process that ensures you build and execute the right plan. Check us out at evolutionpartners.com.au. Also, you can check out our books, Made to Thrive, outlining how to be a great CEO, as well as Onboarded, which is about making your new hires more effective faster. Okay. Nicole Donnelly has been using AI since 2015 and trained thousands of people in 30 countries and 3 languages on how to use AI for everyday practical purposes. And I mean really practical. In 2023, the 5,000 executives and business owners she trained gained an average of 50% of their time back. Nicole is a former professional snowboarder, serial entrepreneur, and the author of 3 books, including Rash to Riches, How I Grew Baby Legs from a Home Business to a Global Brand, The Social Media Playbook, and The Happy Camper Guidebook to a Happier Life. Nicole has won several business awards, including Seattle's 40 Under 40, Small Business Excellence in International Trade, and many other business awards. Her company, Baby Legs, won the Industry Design Excellence Award for 12 years in a row. They were named one of Seattle's best places to work and received a national award for workplace flexibility. You can find Nicole at aismartventures.com. Nicole, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's kind of fun to hear that intro.
I had to cut it down so much because you got so many accolades. It's like, how can I just trim this down so we don't use the whole podcast just using your accolades? So, Nicole, what I see in you is someone who's a doer. You're out there hustling, getting things done when others are resting. I still remember the first time I met you, which could have been maybe 17 years ago, in, I think it was Singapore, where you were in the hallway of an EO University conference giving away your Baby Legs products, which were colourful leg warmers for babies and infants. Everyone else was chatting and you were hustling. You're a busy person and you're getting things done. But also, I see a wonderful, inquiring mind. You're always curious about new and often fun ideas. Nicole, if this resonates with you, please tell us, how did you come to be in this place?
Well, yes, I'm hustling, and I also want to do things in the most efficient way possible. And so I embrace new technology. I'm pretty risk averse, and I do work in industries that are regulated, but for myself and what we try on our business, we're pretty open to trying different technologies. That's why we've been using AI since 2015. When I found out about something that would save me a ton of time and save other people a ton of time, I started doing workshops on AI back then. And at the time, it was for marketing automations and also content dissemination.
Yeah. Awesome. And so you started off as a snowboarder, yeah? A very Vancouver type profession, I guess. So I think, were you in the X Games? Was that that was a big thing back in the day, right? Some of the younger folk might not know it today, but that was a big thing back in the day, I remember.
Yeah, the X Games were everything because snowboarding wasn't in the Olympics yet. That's how old I am. I've had a PayPal account hustling since 1999 when I was selling offcuts from a factory, like their B-boards and stuff. I did that in the off season, but it was, I love snowboarding so much, and X Games was everything. And I did Big Air in the X Games. And to me, that was my big goal. And that was something that I worked so hard to get to. It was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. And then you moved on and started Baby Legs, which was quite a success, I think. I mean, I had to describe it because if you're not in with babies, probably in a cold climate, you might not get it. But tell us about Baby Legs.
Yeah, Baby Legs are, well, so I being a snowboarder, had lots of snowboard socks with holes in them. I cut off my snowboard socks, pulled them up over my little Sarah's knees because Sarah always had diaper rash when we were trying out new foods, and I wanted to protect their knees when they're crawling. And somebody saw me at the store and they wanted some, and within my first 2 weeks, I sold 100 pairs of homemade baby legs out of the diaper bag. And
Wow.
within a year, we were in several countries and we'd sold over $1 million in baby legs. Then it went up to 3.4 million and just kept growing from there. We were in all Target stores in the US. We were in pretty much every baby boutique and Nordstrom's. We had different lines for the different, levels that we were selling to. We had stores in Japan and, distributors in 85 countries, even the warmest ones like Dubai. We had a big distributor over there because there's air conditioning and little arms and legs get cold and it makes potty training easier. So I learned by doing. I learned all of the business stuff by doing. I didn't learn by getting an MBA or going to school for it. And that's what allows me to take the risks that I do, I think, because I just have had this naive optimism for years of, yeah, sure, we can do that. Why not?
Awesome. And I mentioned this beforehand, but that's one of the reasons that I asked you to come on the show, because you have a great practicality about what you do. Before we jump into that, I want to just make note. So we first met we first really got to know each other back in Boston in the Entrepreneurial Masters Program for the Entrepreneurs Organization, which must have been a few years ago now without revealing our ages too much, but a fabulous program. I guess for the listeners, any recollections of that program, knowing that many of our people might be in the Entrepreneurs Organization?
Oh, I mean, the program was so good because we had people from so many different countries. I met my best friend there, and I have kept in touch with people from class over the years. When I was younger, I didn't really understand how much your network is your net worth. I can land in any country and I've got friends there, and a lot of them came from the EMP program. And now my child, who's 20 years old and traveling around, can also have those same warm introductions in different countries that they would choose to go to as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was fabulous for me as well. All right, so let's jump in and talk about artificial intelligence. Business know what artificial intelligence is, but why should they invest the time to learn about the tools? Because they're all busy, right? Especially because AI is changing so fast, and what I learned today might not be relevant tomorrow, might be a perspective. So why should business owners invest the time to learn?
Every business owner needs to leverage AI right now while they can, because their competitors undoubtedly are doing it. If they aren't, their competitors are. And the amount of time that you can save, so yes, you might invest a little bit. Like we do AI classes and workshops, and if you spend an hour in class, we have had, so I think we're in week 7 right now of one of our cohorts, and everybody is reporting saving at least 1 day a week.
Wow.
And if you could that's worth the hours that you spend in class if you can save 1 day every week. And some people report saving more than a day a week, and the average is saving 50% of your time spent on these tasks. And the higher level a person is, the less time they report spending or saving. And the lowest that we get is 25% of somebody's time is saved by using AI. And so you say that you're busy, but you're really wasting your time on tasks that you shouldn't have to do and that AI can do for you. And that's, somebody else is spending that extra time growing their business, connecting with more customers, making more sales. And that's the compelling thing, is we see so often in growth periods, there's famously this graphic that shows the dip in, $0 to $1 million, 1 to 5. And now AI can help you bridge the gap and grow your business without having to do such heavy investment in technology. Yes, there is investment, but it is less expensive than it has ever been for the most benefit. and it's more benefit than it's ever been in history. And yes, things can change from one day to the next, but fundamentally what we're teaching is it applies. Like I did a bunch of Loom recordings about how to do spreadsheets in the different LLMs today. And I discovered there were some new things that saved me even more time.
Wow.
And so often the changes speed up the results that you get. They don't often slow them down. And something Gemini just released that's really cool is if you're in Gemini and you're creating a spreadsheet, there's a button that says open in Sheets. And we use Google Workplace, and so then it opens in Sheets, populates in my workspace, and I can save the spreadsheet right inside of there. And
Wow.
that's a new feature. So yes, it changed, and I don't have to download something and re-upload it. Now I just have a faster connection. So these updates most often will be beneficial and make things even easier for you.
So these people that you're training, mostly business owners or executives, or what's the kind of mix, do you think?
I would say, well, if it's EO kind of people where it's owner operators, they may or may not take the class. They typically don't show up for every lesson, but their employees do.
Okay.
And so they'll often send at least 2 employees or entire departments to our training. Sometimes we'll train 15 to 20 people at a company because when everybody goes through training together, they're all on the same page using the same tools. And instead of just one AI-powered person who may meet resistance within the organization, they'll now have an entire AI-powered department or AI-powered organization without the resistance to change, and everybody's going to be on the same page using the same tools. And the results, I mean, it isn't just double the results. It's infinite, the amount, depending
Yeah.
on the team that you have. We'll have people from admins to data analysts come and take our classes. We had COOs in there and CEOs, and we have marketing managers and CMOs. Right now it really varies because people are trying to learn AI from the base level and how to practically implement it. And our
Yeah.
theme this year has really been supercharge your teams, not just one individual taking a class, because they're not going to be able to push that through your whole organization and really leverage it. So we like to introduce tools that are going to save your team company and supercharge it, and also or save your team time and then supercharge your whole company.
Yeah.
And last year was more about individual tools that do fun and cool things, right?
Yes.
But yeah, and now we're getting more organized. We're getting more enterprise level and doing miraculous things.
Okay, awesome. It sounds too good to be true to say to an executive, but I can say that to you because I know there's a bit of substance behind it, right? It sounds too good to be true for a listener. It might be thinking, all right, you're going to save me 1 day a week. I would love to get 10 minutes a week. So can you give us a practical example, perhaps, of where you used AI with an entrepreneur to make their life easier or to capture more time back, perhaps? What kind of tools or applications or industry, perhaps?
I will go back to spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Most people at an executive level have budget responsibilities, and they're either analyzing spreadsheets or creating spreadsheets. And I could make a spreadsheet for my whole company that has variable expenses for a year, and I can specify all these requirements, have the formulas built into it, and instead of taking me hours to create, there was one I did, it would probably take me about 3 hours, and it took me less than 30 minutes to create with AI.
Yeah, okay. And is there a particular tool that you're using for that?
Well, now I'm using Gemini.
Okay.
Before, I used ChatGPT for that particular one, but Gemini's capabilities in the spreadsheet department surpassed ChatGPT a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So you've got to be aware of the changes because something could be even better. Spreadsheets, awesome. I can see that. And it would be a series of prompts where it would be, actually, we want to spend more on entertainment or whatever it might be in the next year or the next quarter of period. Any other examples? Any other things come to mind outside of spreadsheets?
Presentations. I have to do PowerPoint. Well, I will say PowerPoint because that's what most people have to do. PowerPoint presentations, creating decks, things like that. I have not had to touch a standard PowerPoint except for when I speak at a conference and they require it. I start with Gamma though, and I export it as a PowerPoint. And we can include these links in the show notes. But Gamma is so incredibly powerful. I've been using it for about 18 months. I've created tons of decks. And instead of taking me hours, I can create a big presentation in just a few minutes.
Wow. But I guess you've got to start somewhere, right? So what are the mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when they perhaps either come to you in your classes and they've had a try of it, or otherwise, what are the mistakes that you see people make when they're dipping their toe in the water, perhaps?
I would say they give up. They will say, hey, I tried this thing. It didn't work for me. And I might ask them, what prompts did you use? How did you try it? And often it's a lack of persistence with the tool, or even just asking someone who knows how to use it. We know how to use some, within our company, we all have our expertise, but we all know how to use these tools to a pretty good degree. And if you ask someone who knows how to use it, as opposed to just trying it by yourself, then you're going to get farther.
Yeah.
And so there's asking your peers or an expert, and you don't even have to be that expert, but just good at that tool. Like with the spreadsheets, I could get a few prompts in and get frustrated because I'm not getting the output I want. But if you ask me, I can tell you, well, AI responds to these words, or here's a good way to do it. Because in a spreadsheet, if I say, hey, I want to create a personal budget, what is it going to do? It's going to give you some weird budget. So I say, I'd like to create a personal budget. Please ask me the questions that you need to know in order to create my personal budget. Yeah. And then I might not like the formatting, or I might want to add additional questions. So I iterate. I say, add $50 a month for dog expenses, dog food and such. Or I might say, create an annual budget. And in December, I'm going to put more money into my savings because of whatever. I'm going to max out some tax savings. Yeah. And it could create an annual budget, but it might line up the months on the side on a row instead of a column. And I need to ask it to put it in the format I want. And so there are these nuances that if you haven't played with it, you don't really know how to get the most out of it. And if you do play with it, you'll get the hang of it. And I started on spreadsheets because every task I don't like to do in my business, I'm like, there has to be AI to help me. I open up a tab and I start playing with it because I'm lazy. I don't know. I don't want to do formulas and math and spreadsheets. It's the thing I like the least, but that's why I like teaching it the most, because I don't know that many people that love spreadsheets. I know a few, like my sister. But when you see people, it just light up that way. Or I can show you how to take a document and turn it into a deck. And when I'm in front of a room of people, there are audible gasps because they're so excited and relieved that they don't have to manually assemble a deck anymore. All you have to do is you can have the doc and the requirements, and it makes a beautiful deck. And so it's like you're performing magic on a regular basis and showing people these magic tricks. Yeah,
awesome. It's fair to say, I think, speaking the plainly obvious, it's fair to say, I think, that the latest version seems, at least to me, to have gotten so much better. Because I remember last year we had a strategic planning session in Europe, and we back-ended that with a family holiday. And so I was trying to get ChatGPT to book the family holiday with my prompts. And it was just the most frustrating thing ever for hours and hours, because it would say, we're going to do this. And then after, I guess, 5 or 6 prompts, it would forget what it had done. Now, that's because I'm an amateur, right? I get it. But I feel that it seems that maybe I've gotten a bit better at it, but it seems like with the latest iterations, it's gotten so much better at those types of things. Is that fair to say? And so
Absolutely.
if you lost faith before, don't lose faith altogether.
Exactly. Try again. The newest models are something like 100 times smarter than the beginning of last year. And they just keep getting smarter. Usually when new models are launched, they'll have hiccups for a few days and then it gets ironed out. And they're easier to get the results that you want while asking the same questions that you would have asked, 12 or 18 months ago. You'll definitely get better results. And there's also knowing which tool to use. If you need any real-time advice or information, Gemini is hands down the best because it's attached to Google. So it always draws from the internet for its answers, and it's always real time, the most accurate.
Okay. What is the AI tool that perhaps people haven't heard of? So we know the ChatGPT, maybe the Midjourney, maybe the Gemini from Google. Is there another one that you think this is the one that really deserves more attention than it gets, or people should really know about?
Okay, so there's tools and there's LLMs, right? The large language models that power the tools.
Yeah.
And I would answer your question differently in both cases. The tool that's kind of my favorite is Gamma. I love it so much. There's an LLM. There's a lot of different LLMs that have different jobs. And there's an LLM out of Berlin that's powering AI voice to sound more conversational. And we're starting to get into that in an all-in-one AI sales pipeline. There's a company that's built a tech stack that includes callbacks using AI for appointment setting, things like that. And what we've seen with AI voice has really improved. There are some, I don't want to name names right now because everybody is in development and a lot of them are falling really flat. There are some excellent AI voice ones out there. And then HeyGen just raised some money, and HeyGen is just so good for doing all your video avatars for everything from training to user-generated content, looking social ads and content on there. And HeyGen has new developments every week right now. They've hired more product people, and you can make a request one week and get something the next.
Wow.
It's the improvements in AI voice and video and your human likeness is improving really, really fast right now. And it's exciting to see what is there week to week.
So we're recording on a platform called Riverside, which is a podcasting platform. Their AI is remarkable. So if I input text into the Riverside platform, it can generate my voice such that it even tricked my mum. I put in a paragraph of text, and then I downloaded it and sent it to my mum, and she didn't realize that it wasn't me.
Wow.
Yeah, so that it's gotten pretty good now. And the latest version that Riverside have brought out can also do video with you. So it's full voice and video where you can just put in the text. So and that's today. Imagine where it's going to be in a few years.
Is it multilingual?
I don't know that. It's not something that I would ask or intuitively think is in my world. But I don't know that. But that'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, HeyGen is. We do work. I do a lot of work in Germany and also in UAE and in Latin America. So we're always testing the languages and language capabilities of all the different tools because it really varies. And HeyGen, we generated videos in French that sounded just as good as English, and the lip sync matched as well. And so the latest developments have made that lip sync really good. The French, we were told, sounds really formal as opposed to more casual when it does the translation. So you may know that it's AI based on some of those things. And it does such a good job. So
a few moments ago, you spoke about Gamma. and your love for Gamma. Why? What is like? If you've never heard of it, what does it do? Why do you love it? Why did you use that as your go-to?
Well, Gamma creates decks. And it's one of those boring practical things, right? Like, I don't want to create a deck. What AI tool can I use? And Gamma makes lovely decks quickly. And it's really good at even writing the content on the decks. It's a bit wordy right now, but you can take an idea, just a simple one-liner, and it'll create a deck out of it. You could create a document and it makes a deck out of it. We use it for presentations when we're doing strategies for people. And we've done research, we put it all in, and it makes a deck. And sure, none of these processes are perfect. They do require a human to go in and have a look at it. And with the decks, we'll have to rearrange a few things, maybe change something in the voice. But its first draft accuracy is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, nice. And and you and I both have written books. How do you look at the AI landscape at the moment in terms of either authorship or publishing? Because it feels like pretty soon there'll be a sea of books that have all been written by AI that are the best ones are mediocre. Is that unfair?
I don't think it's unfair. I think that I have seen a lot of these AI books or mini books, ebooks, different things. I'm in talks with a publishing house. They want me to do a book for next year. And it's about AI, which is funny because it changes so much. I'm like, how do I do this so quickly? And they don't want us to use AI. We can use AI for brainstorming, but not for the actual writing. And we use tools. We use Jasper. And Jasper does such a good job at capturing your voice that in all of the outputs, it sounds like things that I would write. And I can even exclude the different AI words. So for me, I am more of a shot glass person. I'll give this much information. I won't give you a bucket load of details.
Yep.
And AI helps to fill in the details for me. And before I had writing partners that would help to fill in the details. And so I'm kind of caught between this situation, like with the publisher, of it is my content, it is my information, I read over everything, and because I know how to prompt AI, I can actually have even better and more robust articles and pieces of content, where I might have given you just a couple paragraphs or a couple sentences about an idea, and it helps expand upon that, which is something I really appreciate. And some people are really long writers, and AI helps to make it short. So there are for sure going to be these pieces that you can read and it's AI. It's AI because the words that they use, because of the sentence structure, there's not the human element in it. And that's something that we always recommend a person looks over it and puts in their flavor to the documents and images and anything else, that it's not just purely AI generated and sent out there. The human factor is still important, and AI is getting even better with that part of it. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn about it because I feel like it makes me better. And a lot of studies have shown it makes smarter people smarter.
Yeah.
And it makes people who are not so smart even less smart because they don't know how to use AI, and it takes away critical thinking. Part of the success in using it is when you are good at critical thinking, you can get much better outputs.
Yeah. It's like the way that we use it in our practice, or the way that we talk about it with clients, is it supercharges A players. If you're capable, it's going to make it amazing. And it's going to make perhaps the C players unemployed, and the B players are going to be at a fork in the road. Which it sounds funny, but there's always a kernel of truth in humor, right? Because it's like, this is some of the challenges. So for entrepreneurs and leaders, where should they prioritize their effort? Because it's overwhelming. There's so many names that they've never heard of, but we got to start somewhere. and you've kind of mentioned spreadsheets is a good place. And I know the easy answer, and I can challenge you because I can. The easy answer is, well, it depends on your job, right?
Yes.
But where should entrepreneurs prioritize their limited time to make a start to get the best return on effort? Because they read stuff, but they don't know, like, where do I start?
Yeah. I mean, sign up for our newsletter. We help so much with that. We only give you 3 tools to look at. It's free. But we always say start with training.
Hang on, plug in. Just where do they get your newsletter? So before you move on to training.
Yeah, AIsmartventures.com.
Okay.
And you can, if you sign up for the list, you get the newsletter. And every week we publish a handful of, whatever's happening in AI in the news. Plus we do a visual example of how to use an AI tool. And then also what tools we're using. But we only do 3. So I'm signed up for several newsletters, and they give you like 20 different tools to try out. And I find it overwhelming. I never get to all of them. And we want to be really, really practical.
Yeah.
And so training is huge. I have taken some of Google's training, Microsoft training, and I find it really basic and impractical because they only focus on their tool sets.
Yeah.
They don't focus on what's out there. And we bring what's out there to you in the training aspect. And so I've had clients who want to pay me to do an AI strategy for their company of what to implement. And I tell them, I'm like, you can pay me to do this. I'm going to charge you a lot of money, or you can send your people to class for a lot less. Yeah. If you send them to class, they will get ideas of how this is going to help your company and what tools they need to use. And then they'll also get an idea of what is not there yet with AI. So you're not going to choose those things. But if you go to the classes and workshops, then you can understand what AI is really good at and how you can leverage it in your company. And there's no better people than your employees to do that either. So you might understand it at a high level, but somebody from marketing is going to look at it different than somebody from ops. Yeah. And they can all attend the same training and get an idea of this is how we can use AI, and this is what will help in my department or my role, and advocate for what they want to use. Because if an executive takes it without any staff, it's going to occur as top down, and your implementation is not going to be as robust as if you send at least 1 or 2 other people and have them go to training with you, because then everybody will be on the same page. And that's the biggest thing, is getting everyone on the same page of what to use, why to use it, and when not to use it also.
And so if I'm not a tech person, because a lot of entrepreneurs are specialists in their field perhaps, but not tech people, is the training suitable for a non-tech person?
Yeah,
and sorry.
I'm not a tech person.
I set you up for that, didn't I?
I'm not a tech person. I'm really not. I did German and photography in school. I don't know how to program computers. I have won prompting awards. I won the first ever prompt engineering award, but I am not an engineer. I don't build these things. I don't know how to code, and I do know how to use the tools in an everyday, really applicable, approachable way. One of our EO customers, she gave us a testimonial. She's like, I didn't feel dumb in class. Yeah. And I feel like now when I'm at a conference, I can speak about AI.
Yeah. Yeah. And are the classes in person or online or both?
Both. We do live in person. We've done that for rooms up to 200 people probably. And we have online training that is live via Zoom. Yeah, we do that every week. If a company wants to do it, we'll do a special cohort just for them. But we have people join as a member, and we do these masterminds every Wednesday. We bring in guest experts. So, Gamma is my favorite tool. It took us about 1.5 years, but we got the CEO of Gamma to come on our mastermind. Awesome. And have a conversation. We just had somebody from HeyGen. We had somebody from this sales pipeline stack that we really love. we had them come on to our mastermind, and sometimes it's just Q&A that people have on a topic, like what note taker should I use, and we showed the inside of a bunch of note takers so they can make an educated decision about what they want to use. Our answer is read AI, by the way. We love it. And there's a YouTube video that shows all of the different note takers that people brought to class that we could show.
Awesome.
And so it's a variety of learning what's out there, what other people are using. And then we go through structured lessons on prompt engineering, and we talk about spreadsheets, images, videos, presentations, just really the basics. If you have a job and you have to sit at a computer, you probably have to do these things every so often, you know?
Yeah. I can only imagine what's coming up regarding email, because email is probably for everybody one of the hardest things to deal with every day.
Yeah.
And your eyes lit up like, oh, I've got this thing. And you don't have a thing, you just can't wait till email gets redundant.
Oh, no.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So there are things that can sit in your inbox and read your messages and and prioritize for you, and then also even draft responses for you. We have
Superhuman?
found,
Is that one Superhuman?
I've used it, but no.
Okay, good.
So the best ones I think are native. There's Gemini in your inbox for Google Workspace, and then Copilot for Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And it will suggest what emails you should pay attention to first. It will draft responses to emails for you. But the accuracy, so we're a Google shop, but I do have the Microsoft suite just so I can pay attention to the developments there for our clients, because a lot of them are on Microsoft. In email, no one's quite there, and it's helpful. So I actually use the Jasper plugin to my Chrome browser, and Jasper sits in there and can write emails on my behalf. But Gemini is showing promise now that it's in the inbox. Yeah. They've just been testing it. So on our team, we've all had access at different times. Yeah. And we finally all have access to Gemini in our inbox to help. It'll read your emails and then write a response for you if you want it to.
What do you wish that you knew about AI earlier? Because you're admittedly not a tech person, but you are interested in efficiency, perhaps. Mm-hmm. You're learning things as they're coming out, but what do you wish that you knew about AI earlier?
I wish I knew about OpenAI earlier as an opportunity to invest in it, like financially.
Yeah, good answer.
Because we were using it when we had to have programmers use it. So we had somebody on our team who is a programmer, and you had to use a programmer had to program to get things out of Dolly, and what is now ChatGPT. You couldn't just talk to it in a normal human language. You had to have a programmer. And man, if we would have gotten in on OpenAI back then from a financial perspective, that would have been so good. But I think as far as what I want to know and how it would help my business, I think we've kept up with everything as it comes out. Yeah. And we test out like tons of different new tools. So I don't know that there's anything that I feel like I missed along the way in the last 18 months. But I will say, like, last year, I learned more in the first 6 months of the year than I have ever in my life, like more than going to university, just the fire hose of new tools that came out. By November last year, we had more than 11,000 different AI tools that came out. Wow. And they're still releasing quickly this year, but some are getting gobbled up by bigger companies. And, you know, it's a little bit different. The environment's different this year. And there are some really good tools for companies if you want to have collaboration and retain your knowledge. So I think that's something that companies need to take into consideration. Is making sure you have an internal use policy. We also have an AI law workshop. if you have sensitive data, you want to know where that information is being stored. A lot of people in Australia or even Middle East, anybody in government in another country besides the US, do not want their information stored in US data centers.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you got to know where your information is being stored, how your internal team is using AI, because there aren't insurance policies like cyber insurance policies that cover AI specifically. So you want to make sure that you have a policy that shows you're taking precautions right now. And AI has been under attack from a cyber attack perspective really heavily. And most small businesses, something like 80% of small businesses will have a cyber attack every year.
Yeah, wow. That's
like
crazy.
we had attack this year. Our clients had some attacks this year, and maybe they're small and inconsequential. They're just kind of a hiccup that takes some things down for a bit, and it's annoying. But other times it can take a lot of data, and so you want to make sure that your people know how to use the tools safely, and that you have that AI use policy internal at least, and then we have an external policy so people know how to use it. But the data question is a really big one of where is your information going, where's your client information going, and making sure that everybody uses it safely. So like we've been on top of this since the beginning, and we pay attention to what the EU does, and we abide by that standard. Even though it's not rolled out in the US, we want to take the precautions, and we're on the most conservative side that way. So yes, snowboarder risk. I'm not risk averse, but I don't want to cause any liability for my clients.
No, of course. I remember seeing Salam Ismail talk. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a technologist, and he had this one diagram of an exponential curve and a time date at the bottom of the arc where he says you are here before it turns vertical. It kind of feels a bit like we're there. That it's kind of AI's was really big 18 months ago in the media or the collective, and now it's bubbling away in the background. The hardest question for you then is, where do you think it's going? Like in 2 years, like at this rate of change, what do you foresee, or what are you excited about, perhaps?
So in StrengthsFinder, one of my top things is always futuristic. And right now, I could not even imagine what it's going to be like in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some huge changes that we can't even imagine right now, that there are people working on. But the AI, the chips that go into your brain, that interface with your brain, that they're testing it out for people with neurological issues and Parkinson's and things like that. So there's medical uses. I think that, I don't know if in 2 years, it takes a long time for things to clear the FDA in the US. But I think that there are going to be these advances. There's technology where you can actually grow neurons, and there's neuron chips that are neurons like are in your brain, make up these tiny chips, and they're super powerful. And because of the computing necessary to power AI, there's got to be this hardware advance to match what AI can do. And so I think that there's going to be a big leap in the hardware that we see. And there will have to be an evolution in how the hardware to support the technical advances go, because right now it's actually limited a lot by the hardware and the server capacities and things like that, because that's why there's so many outages with AI, because they can't handle the load.
Yeah.
And so when there is some innovation, whether you get these neural chips public and on the market, because I know some of the companies making them in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, that's going to change everything.
Yeah. It's so exciting, and like you said, I mean, we're not talking, I said 2 years, we're not talking about 20 years away. This is going to be here. It's 700 days, give or take. So the book that I'm working on at the moment is called Bigger Isn't Better, Better is Better. So it speaks to don't aim for scale, aim for building a better business, and what you really want will come. So for you, Nicole, what do you think is a better business? How would you define a better business?
For me, a better business takes care of humans. It takes care of the humans that it serves, and it takes care of the humans that work there. And I think that's really important. And I mean, I learned some hard lessons in my early days about it, but it was always about care for the community. And whether that's internal or external, the better businesses are going to care for their employees better. They will have more time off. With AI, it's possible. Like those 4-day work weeks are not in the future. Those are happening at some companies now. If you can become that much more efficient, you won't have to work as much. You can still be just as productive. And I think it's going to change. I think it should change the way that the employers think about their businesses. And if they treat people like this and we have more time off, then people will want to stay with companies for longer. Workplace flexibility, all of that. I think that's what building a better business is. And it's also on the customer service side of things. I'm so big on customer service and making sure that everybody, like in our classes, has a really great experience. And when they walk away, we don't make them feel dumb. They feel smarter. They feel like they can impact their teams more. They can bring more value to their customers. They can bring more value all around. So a better business for me is so much about the people and how you treat them internally and externally.
That's lovely. And having asked that question of many people now, it's amazing the common thread in what you've just said to other people. So thank you for sharing. What's a book that you might recommend to our audience that isn't your book or my book? What's a book? Well, you know, I think your book's great, Brad. We don't want to hear that. What's a book that's impacted you, or that you think, knowing our audience, as I've described them before, you think that they should know about?
Right. So I consume 1 or 2 books a week, and most of them are business books. But there is a fiction book that I think about all the time since I read it. And it was a friend of mine who designs compulsion loops for video games. Yeah. But it's not about that. He was reading it and he was raving about it. So I thought, I've got to read this book just because he was raving about it so much. It's called The First 15 Lives of Harry August.
Wow.
And it's interesting when you think about if you lived the same life over and over, the different choices you could make. And for me, it just frees up that idea of I can be whoever I want to any day and every day. And anything is possible from day to day. And that's in the book. There are these people who get born over and over and live the same lifetime. And it can be years apart, decades apart. It's really interesting that way. But seeing the different lives that you could have lived or that you can live right now, it's so much about how we choose to spend our days, spend our time, spend our conversations with people. And I really love that because there's a million great business books too. But this one just, for me, has expanded my thinking, I guess, or just like consistently does. I just finished The Wide, Wide Sea, which is the last voyage of Captain Cook.
Oh, yeah. Lovely. Very, very popular in Australia.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. That's for sure. It is a gruesome one as well. I did not expect that, but a friend recommended it. I don't know. I usually go for business books, and sometimes I need a break from them. But The First 15 Lives of Harry August is something, it also is definitely like a rated R kind of a book. Yeah. So, you know, if you there's some things that it goes through with, you know, Nazis and, you know, living through that time in history over and over and what you would do.
Yeah. Okay.
But it poses interesting questions about what would you do? How would you choose to live your life?
Wow. That's a fantastic recommendation. But I can't let it go. You're reading 2 business books a day. Some people do, a week. Some people do that and we try to get all the people that we work with to read 1 a quarter, all the leaders and executives, right? And we can struggle with that. So that's a huge amount that you're consuming ongoing, and to still have that passion. That's awesome. That's awesome, especially because
that's why Yeah, I've got to go to the other ones sometimes, like Captain Cook or Harry August, or find something different. It was a guy that I've known since high school who recommended that one. And I had just read one that was about the power of no and this yes, no, yes. And it was from the same guy who wrote Getting to Yes. And he said he wished he would have had that no book first, but it was an interesting one about saying no, respecting other people's no's. Yeah. Anyways,
Awesome.
you got to mix it up, right? And some
You do.
biographies, autobiographies in there too.
Lovely. Thank you very much. How can people find more, learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, you can learn more at aismartventures.com, and then the community where we do the cool Zooms with different people and have the classes. You can get there from aismartventures.com, or you can go straight to aismartinsiders.com. And I am on all the socials. It's my name. Maybe it's, got a middle initial of A, but I'm at Nicole Donnelly on most socials. I'll answer a Facebook direct message, and that's better than email. For sure.
Wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
what haven't we covered off today that you wanted to cover off?
So I think an important part of learning about all of this AI is being part of groups online, WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, and being part of conversations, answering questions and asking questions. And I have learned so much because in these groups, we have people who are building the things and that are really technical. And it's given me this understanding of where I fit in and where I can provide value to people, but also a place where I can learn. And so finding that community that suits you at the level where you are, where you can consistently learn. So be in an AI community for, be there for a year or so and see what happens. AI right now is so changing, and there's so much that you can benefit from. And that's, I guess, why EO is important too, is you get to learn from your peers and hear the conversations that they're having, the struggles that they're having, the recommendations that they get. Again, that's part of the community and care for the community that I have, is being an active part of those conversations is really important. And it has been so important in this last 18 months of really heavy learning.
But you love it. You love the heavy learning. I know that.
I do.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with myself and the audience. I'm delighted that I asked you once again because of the practicality. You just bring a practicality to what you do that people can connect with, I think. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Brad. It's really nice to see you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you'd be kind enough to leave a review for the podcast, that'd be really helpful to other like-minded entrepreneurs, and then we can grow our community. If you want to find out more about our guests, head over to evolutionpartners.com.au/podcast, where you can find show notes and other additional reading. Hope to see you back next week. Until then, keep thriving.